Bonjour. Oh my god, my pinky was out. Who do I think I am? Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. I have new glasses. Let me know your thoughts. Actually, I don't want to fucking hear it. I can't tell if my glasses look like grandma vibes because they're metal or if they're like trendy. I don't know. Anyway, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the nervous system. I've always found the nervous system quite interesting, but recently I've really put effort into learning about it because I feel like the nervous system is one of those things that like is the root issue behind a lot of things, and I feel like it's often overlooked. For example, if you have insomnia or anxiety or high blood pressure or like literally anything, quite often it comes from a dysregulated nervous system. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the time you get treated for the insomnia, the like whatever, rather than necessarily looking at the root. And I feel like the root of a lot of things is your nervous system. So I kind of was like, I want to know more about this, and I've done a lot of research now, okay? Because I'm someone who struggles with anxiety a lot. I wouldn't say there's necessarily a lot else that I would be like, that could be my nervous system, but my anxiety could definitely be my nervous system. And I feel like most of us don't really know what state our nervous system is in, like if it's healthy, if it's balanced, if it's dysregulated. I feel like that's not something people generally think about. Like, why would we actively be thinking about that, you know? Just thought I would share my findings, my thoughts, you know, how to know if your nervous system is dysregulated, like signs that it's not, you know, your nervous system is not healthy, how you can then regulate it and sort it out, why it's important to do that, you know, how it can benefit you, etc, etc. So today is going to be somewhat of a science lesson. As I was writing my notes for this episode, I thought, this sounds like I know what I'm talking about, because I'm just spitting back out a lot of things that I've learned from people who do know what they're talking about. So obviously, I'd like to clarify, I don't have any qualifications, okay? Do your own research if you're thinking about anything to do with your own health, you know. Don't listen to anyone about that unless they know what they're talking about, okay? And I'm one of those people that just doesn't. So the nervous system plays a ridiculously large role in our general health and well-being. Our mental health, how anxious we feel, how often we get ill, you know, the state of our immune system, our blood pressure, our breathing, you know, how peaceful and calm you feel in your body. That's what I find so interesting about the nervous system, is it's not just the like more physical kind of scientific shit, like your heart rate and your how fast your heart is beating, stuff like that. It's also like, do you feel calm? Are you happy? Are you anxious? It's the stuff that like you notice in yourself. That's what's so fascinating to me, because I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that like you wouldn't think is linked, you know, if you kind of focus on the health of your nervous system. It could probably solve a lot of things people are struggling with, like a massive range of things. So I feel like it's definitely worth looking into and like thinking about, because like I said, you might be trying to fix something and then it's like, that's not the issue. Like you might even be medicated for something and it's like, that's not the issue. That's just like a symptom of the issue, you know? So I feel like we need to be trying to keep our nervous system healthy and in balance, because otherwise it can just create a string of issues that are all coming from the same place, but just sprouting a whole load of other issues. Do you know what I mean? Okay, so I'm going to talk about what an out of balance, a dysregulated nervous system is, from the research that I have done. Again, not fucking doctor. So there's tons of different parts to the nervous system, but the main focuses for kind of what I'm talking about, there's two main branches: the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And they're kind of like the yin to the yang. One activates in a time of stress or anxiety or danger, when you need to be kind of alert. It will kind of heighten your senses in a way. The other one relaxes you, calms your body down, slows your heart rate down when there is no need to be stressed, okay? And obviously you need both, because there's times where you need to be quite fucking alert, but that should also switch off when you don't need to be in that state, and that's the parasympathetic, okay? That is the one that will switch on to relax you, calm you down, chill everything back out in the most like informal description of what the definition of these two are. You need both, because you need to be able to switch on in times of stress, and that's what your sympathetic nervous system is for. I think that one's got a bit of like a bad reputation because it's linked to high stress levels, and obviously if it's overactivated, that is a negative thing. But the point is, there's meant to be two, you know, and like I said, they're designed to kind of work in harmony with each other and keep you in a kind of homeostasis of like just a level state. When you're switched on to stress, it's working, it's looking after you, it's keeping you alert, you know, it's accommodating to the fact you're in a stressful situation. But when you get out of that stressful situation, your body should be calming back down again, because your parasympathetic nervous system should be switching on and being like, okay, we're fine now. Time to slow everything back down. You need both, okay? Where you're not overly stressed or overly calm. But let's be honest, the issue is never, I'm too calm. Like, the issue with a dysregulated nervous system is you don't know how to calm back down. Your body is staying in a state of stress for too long. This is quite common because life is full of stressors and triggers, you know, that like no wonder we have a hard time with it. Do you know what I mean? A dysregulated nervous system is your sympathetic nervous system, the stressful one, is overactivated. You know, it's kind of gotten used to being in a higher state of stress or anxiety, which could be due to just how the world is, or it could be due to going through a specific period in your life that was very stressful or anxiety inducing, you know. And that will fuck with the homeostasis of it. Do you see what I mean? Your body will kind of adjust to needing to be overly stressed. So you're then going to feel that stress and like overstimulation for longer than you need to, which, as you can imagine, is not good for your health, because stress is such a killer. It's so fucking bad for you, and it will kind of put you in a state where minor inconveniences will really throw you off. So things like getting stuck in traffic, or your hair isn't going right that day, or whatever, things that like in the grand scheme of things are annoying but they're pretty minor, that will kind of trigger you to feeling that like overstimulation. It can ruin your day, or it can take hours to actually get back to a state of like calm. That's a sign that your nervous system's like out of whack. Because, you know, if your nervous system was healthy and regulated, you would have the ability to weather annoyances. You know, your tolerance would be higher for inconveniences and things that are pretty minor, because you would feel a little bit annoyed by it, but then your parasympathetic nervous system would, you know, calm you back down, and you'd be like, it's not that fucking deep. Like, you could kind of just get through it a lot faster. Like, once the issue at hand, the minor issue, has been solved, you should calm back down. But a lot of the time, the issue gets solved and you're still stressed out. That's, you know, it's that frazzled feeling that obviously sometimes you can just get due to being tired or in a really bad mood. But it's more of like, this is a consistent issue, that this would be something to pay attention to. I remember a therapist told me years ago, she was kind of describing anxiety, but I think it's such a similar kind of image to what I'm describing, because obviously they're very similar because they're quite linked. And she was saying that when you are about to cross a road, you know, there's cars, there's a threat, there's something that could hurt us, it makes sense that you might feel your anxiety heightened slightly, because it's doing its job. You know, anxiety is not a negative thing when it's needed. It's there to keep you alive. She was describing anxiety becoming, you know, more of a disorder or something negative. It makes sense that your anxiety is switched on when there's a threat, you know, it's doing its job. But then you cross the road, you've got to the other side, it should switch back off. And if it doesn't, that's when there's an issue, because there's actually no longer a threat. There's actually no longer a reason to feel anxious, but something has just triggered the anxiety, and now it doesn't feel safe and it can't switch off. It should be switching off a lot quicker. That's why everyone feels anxiety. It's a normal human emotion. But the difference between feeling anxious and struggling with anxiety, do you know what I mean, is like, how long does it take your body to switch this off? And I think it's very similar to the nervous system. If you see what I mean, that the parasympathetic, the relaxing one, should be coming in a lot quicker than it is if dysregulated. I think you understand what I'm saying. I don't think I need to describe it anymore, but I think that image is a really good way to look at it, is just like a regulated nervous system should be flipping between those two very easily. Do you know what I mean? It not necessarily like very easily, but fairly quickly. You know, oh, there's a stress, there's a trigger, let's wake up, let's switch on, you know, heart rate maybe goes up, you feel a little bit stressed, you're a little bit tense, you know, there's something at work that's quite pressing, you know, that's necessary, you need that to get shit done, and then, oh, it's 5 o'clock, it's time to go home. Obviously, we're human beings, it's not like, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I'm calm. No one works like that, but maybe within an hour or two you should be at a calmer state. Again, like I said, if you've had a particularly stressful day, it makes sense that maybe that evening you're not feeling your best. But if it's like every evening you can't switch off. Another thing this makes me think of is a lot of people have a drink when they get home from work to calm them down. That is kind of like the cheat code to, I'm gonna slide into my parasympathetic nervous system without actually needing to do it. Does that make sense? And I think that's I don't know, again, I'm not a scientist, this is just kind of an idea I'm having right now, that I think your nervous system, when healthy, you shouldn't need necessarily something like alcohol to put your body in a relaxed state. It should know when it can relax and when it needs to be paying attention. And obviously, most of the time, you shouldn't be in a super stressful state. Like, majority of your life should not be spent in a state of stress. But, you know, maybe the reason that a lot of people come home from work and have a beer or something, maybe that, I don't know, but that could be because their nervous system is a bit fucked and they struggle to relax themselves and essentially self-soothe. Do you know what I mean? Get yourself into a state of calm. You know, you're then kind of letting the alcohol do that for you, and then obviously the issue there is that's quite addicting, and it's a lot easier than having to do it yourself, and now your nervous system stays in an unhealthy state, and then you end up with a fuck ton of other issues, like you can't sleep and you're stressed. I don't really know how I got into alcohol there, but I think that could possibly be a link. I don't know. No, I'm not gonna start trying to work out why people are like alcoholics. I'm just saying that that could, I don't know, let's move on. An issue with having an overactivated sympathetic nervous system, the stress one, is you're getting a continuous stream of cortisol, the stress hormone, which you do not fucking want, okay? You don't want that. Like, that's not good for you. And you're also getting adrenaline. And as you can imagine, getting a continuous stream of like cortisol and adrenaline and shit like that is so bad for you. You know, you're obviously going to be feeling anxiety and not going to be sleeping well, and you're high blood pressure and shit. Like, this makes so much sense. This is why it's so important to keep your parasympathetic nervous system active and healthy, because it can essentially save your life. You know, having that to relax you and calm everything back down is life-saving. It's essentially the difference between living a life where you feel stressed and out of control and anxious in your body, and a life where you feel at peace in your body and calm. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's huge. And the key to your parasympathetic nervous system being healthy is your vagus nerve. This is the main component of your parasympathetic nervous system, is the vagus nerve. When you stimulate the vagus nerve, your heart rate slows down, your blood pressure drops, it stops the stress hormones from being released, it regulates your mood. It does all of these things, like your breathing slows down, everything. That's why you need to be stimulating the vagus nerve, because its role is essentially to calm you down. We want to keep the vagus nerve toned so that we're not irritable and overstimulated and frazzled all of the fucking time. Ways that are known to do this are quite often the kind of wellness tips that you see on like Instagram and shit. Like, it won't necessarily say on Instagram or on TikTok or something why these things are super good for you, but the reason that these things are good for you is because these are all things that are known to target the vagus nerve. For example, cold water exposure, yoga and things like that. It's literally like, you know, these things are good for you, but you're kind of like, I don't know why, I feel like they're just known to calm you down and shit. The science behind them is that they are targeting, stimulating your vagus nerve. That's why they calm you down, because relaxing your breathing, slowing your heart rate down. Obviously, cold water exposure is kind of the opposite. That one more shocks your nervous system into a more level state. And if you struggle with anxiety, shocking yourself into like a different state is sometimes the best way to get out of a panicked state. Like, I know if I feel like super panicky, a cold shower or jumping in the sea is like the thing to do, because there's something about it that's just so jarring and fucking like it just jolts you out. You can't feel anything other than cold. So it levels everything out. But other known things are meditation, sunshine, nature, deep breathing, walking, massages. There's an endless list, but all the things basically that you know are good for you, and that, you know, we're always told to go out in nature, get sunshine on your face. It's because it's actually going to calm you down, and it's going to trigger your parasympathetic nervous system to relax you. And like I said, you want to be keeping that toned and healthy, because then it gets a little bit more agile and quick to respond. It's also, on the contrary, good to avoid stress triggers when you can, and there's a lot of ones that are kind of hidden, kind of not obvious, that do things like speed up our heart rate and things that we're just doing without necessarily thinking that it's stressing us out or fucking with our nervous system. They're not the obvious stressors like work and family issues or relationship issues. You know, they're maybe a little bit less avoidable. You can't help if your job is stressful. Obviously you could get a different job, but like this, you know what I mean. There's some things that we partake in on the daily that we don't realize are fucking with our nervous system. Okay, I've written down a list of some known ones as well. Horror movies, social media, uncomfortable clothes. That one, fucking, like, that is so me. I cut the tags out of everything I wear like a child, because if something's itchy or uncomfortable, it's irritating as fuck. And again, you're putting yourself in a state of stress and irritation more than you need to. And I know it sounds stupid being like, that's not gonna help. Generally, avoiding stress when you don't need it and avoiding putting your body in a state of like irritation is always gonna be good. Other ones are heat, alcohol, reality TV, negative and toxic relationships. Basically anything that you can think of that's gonna make your heart rate a bit faster, make you a little bit hot, a little bit irritable. Social media, irritating people, you know, being too hot. Obviously alcohol is kind of a big one. Reality TV, literally drama, stress, arguments, bitchiness. Like, that's not fucking good for you, and it's also so mind-numbingly stupid. Obviously what I'm saying is kind of obvious in the sense of don't do things that are stressing you out and bad for you, and do things that are good for you and relaxing for you. But essentially, like I said, life is full of stressors and triggers, hence why a lot of us are kind of dysregulated. Obviously the best thing to do for that is to counteract it and put in things that are good for your nervous system and good for your body, and that are bringing you down to like a more grounded state. Because imagine you've been at work all day. That's usually got, you know, an element of stress, whatever your job is. Generally people find work kind of stressful, and then you come home, you have a drink, you go on your phone for a couple of hours, you shove on Love is Blind, scroll on your phone again for a couple of hours and go to bed. At no point in that day did you do anything to ground yourself or to relax yourself. And you might think watching TV and having a glass of wine, that is relaxing. There's a difference. That is shutting off the stress in the sense of kind of numbing it with distractions. That's more so what that is. And yes, sometimes that's a nice thing to do. I'm not saying you can never do that. Like, I would be a hypocrite. I love a glass of wine in a movie. Like, I'm not I'm not shitting on doing these things, but I'm saying they aren't relaxing your nervous system and your body and your mind really at all. They're just kind of shutting off the stressors for a while until they come flooding back in and you can't sleep all night, and then you're like, why can't I sleep? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like what I was talking about with the alcohol before, that there's some things that will calm you down temporarily, but they're not calming you down in a way that's healthy and long lasting. They don't have the longevity in the same way that toning that muscle of, it's not a muscle, but I was kind of using quote unquote, now I sound stupid, your vagus nerve, toning that and doing things that are actually keeping that active, so that when, you know, you come home from work and just chill out, you know, you don't need to numb it, because your body just knows how to fucking regulate itself in a healthy way. That's like a skill that will last a long time. Like, I think it's important to work out something that works for you, because I'm not saying you need to do yoga every day or you need to have cold showers every day. Not everyone wants to fucking do that, okay? But something that you are willing to do that's good for your nervous system. Maybe for you, it's going on a walk in nature without your phone every other day or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, anything that's just actually going to ground you and relax you from a healthy source. Maybe it's watching ASMR. I fucking love ASMR. Or maybe it's when you wake up, you're a bit more mindful about your morning routine. Maybe you don't pick up your phone straight away, because obviously that's instant cortisol. That's instant shit in your head. Like, maybe you're like, okay, for the first half an hour, I'll get up, I'll stretch slightly, I'll look at the sun, you know, I'll do something slightly healthier than I would. Even that is like getting your body a little bit more used to not feeling like it's constantly battling. Like, I feel like now it's so easy to feel like you're constantly kind of in a state of fight or flight, and it's so hard to actually feel calm because life is stressful. But I think putting in times where you actually can give your body and your mind a break brings everything back down, and like, you're gonna be so much healthier and happier. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, that will have long lasting effects, practicing things like that, because stress, you don't want to be in a state of stress ongoingly. It's not good for you. You know, I think your mind and body will thank you for it, for putting in effort. Like, you'll actually see it, like, in the sense that, like, you're not going to be getting ill every other week if your body is in a calmer state. If you're constantly in a heightened stressful state, your immune system is getting fucked. Do you know what I mean? And I think making an effort to rebalance and regulate your nervous system is one of the best things you can do for yourself, because it makes you a happier, healthier person who can enjoy their life more. You know, you can actually have a nice time. You're not always fucking stressed. You're not going to be so irritable with people as well. Like, your relationships will definitely be better because you won't be so snappy. And you know, when you're doing things that are supposed to be nice, like you're out for dinner with a friend, or you're on a walk, or you know, you're sat on the beach, you can actually enjoy those moments if your nervous system is a bit more regulated, because it will know, you know, Brooke, you're doing something nice, enjoy it. It won't be like, fuck, I'm stressed, I'm still stressed from work, I'm still stressed from this. It will calm down and let you actually enjoy your fucking life. Not only will it stop causing physical issues like heart rate, blood pressure, weight gain, stress, insomnia, immune system, all that shit I've said before, not only will that kind of go away a lot more, but you'll just enjoy your life more. This is what I mean. This is why I think it's so interesting, because it isn't just the technical shit that you're like, what? It's also the stuff like you can actually be happier, and you'll notice like, oh, I'm actually having a nicer time existing, you know? And I think everyone needs that these days, because I think a lot of stuff now in life is designed for you to stay in that kind of state of stress. You know, social media and everything is kind of just shoved at you to stay overstimulated. And it feels like, I love that the yoga class I go to, she always says, you know, the fact that you've come here to slow down and switch off is kind of considered slightly rebellious these days, because going, you know, grinding and working and being busy and all of that is kind of the norm now, and it's what you're praised for. It's kind of just what life is like almost designed like now. It's kind of just like, that's how things are. Choosing to switch off and ground yourself is not something that is so pushed. It is a bit more now, I guess, but I don't know. It's not like the world is designed for people to be calm and happy all the time, really, is it? And you know, there's obviously, we're busy people, we have jobs and responsibilities and, you know, pets and children and things to cook and things to clean, and we don't necessarily have the time. I feel like that's half the issue. But I do think it's definitely worth prioritizing. I do have lots of things that I choose to spend my time doing. But once a week I'll go to a yoga class. That's an hour out of a week. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone has shit to do, and I respect that, but it's one of those things where it's like, if you're putting hours into going on your phone and watching TV, you have the time. And most people are doing things like that quite a lot. So I'm like, most people have the time to like substitute an hour to actually like exist, you know? And it's hard because we do adjust to being switched on a lot of the time, and like quite often when it comes around to my yoga class, my mind is still so fucking switched on and racing that I spend the whole hour being like, I did not calm down very well in that class. Like, or if you like meditate or journal, it's like sometimes your mind just feels like, even when you're doing the relaxing things, it's still in stress mode, or like it's still very activated. I find that quite frustrating, especially when I've paid to go to a fucking class. I'm like, great, I just spent that hour sat thinking. But I think that's just a sign that like, it's obvious if I'm spending most of my week doing things and then an hour on a Monday evening I'm going to yoga, of course my body's not going to be like, oh, time to chill out. It's still like spending the majority of its time not in that state. So it's like the contrast is, you know, quite big. I think that's why it's good to implement like little things in each day. That's kind of what I try to do, like spend a little bit of every day switching off. Like, even if I'm really busy, like there's obviously some days where I can't do this, but like tomorrow I'm literally working like all day, so like I probably won't really be able to do, but like 10 minutes, I'm sure I'll fit in 10 minutes. But I like to spend a small amount of each day to just actively switch off and be present, because otherwise time just fucking flies. And I kind of have to view it with myself as like, I appreciate you're busy and you have things to do, but also like enjoy your life. Like hello, be present. And like most things can wait. Like obviously work and stuff, I'm not trying to be like, your kids can wait. Like I know there's stuff that we can't change, but there are sometimes things that can wait. But yeah, I just find it really fucking interesting, and I think I'm gonna make a real effort this year. To be fair, I think I did kind of unconsciously towards the end of last year, but I want to make a real effort to keep my nervous system regulated and healthy, because I think I do have a tendency to like, I like to be busy, and I enjoy almost a certain level of stress, and like I've got so much shit to do and I kind of like that feeling, but I don't want that to be something I enjoy. Like I want to just get that balance right. I don't know, between now and like early last year, I'm a lot happier and healthier of a person because my balance is a lot better. Like I used to have a lot of those triggers in my life, and I feel like now I've kind of got to a place where like my schedule and my time, I'm a lot more like discerning with what I spend time doing and who I spend time on, and you know, all of that kind of thing. So I feel like now I'm a lot more regulated than I have ever been. But as someone who suffers with anxiety, I'm always trying to be more regulated. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it was interesting. Definitely go do some research, look into it, think about, do you feel like you're in a state of too activated all the time? Because it's definitely worth paying attention to that. And you know, think of some things you could maybe do to level it out a bit that might work for you. And yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, hope it was interesting, and I will talk to you next week.